A woman in Pennsylvania spent $4,000 on a patio last year. 6 months later, her neighbor built the exact same size patio for under $200. And honestly, it looked better. The difference wasn't skill, it wasn't luck. It was one simple fact that paver companies really don't want you to know. A single store-bought concrete paver that sells for $6 or $7 costs less than 50 cents to make in your own backyard. Not 50% less, 50 cents total. Once you see how simple this process is, you will never walk into a garden center and pay full price again. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 10 ways to make your own garden pavers for pennies on the dollar. We're going deep here. Real mix ratios, real mold tricks, real mistakes to avoid so your pavers don't crack in the first winter. Stick around for number 7 because that one uses something most people throw in the trash every single week, and it makes some of the strongest pavers on this entire list. Before we get into the first method, I want to say something quick. Prices on landscaping materials keep climbing every season, and most channels wait until spring to post their best money-saving projects when the good deals on molds and sand are already gone. If you hit subscribe now, you'll catch these tips while supplies are still cheap and before your neighbors are lined up at the same store grabbing the same bags of sand. Okay, let's get into it. The classic Quikrete mold method. This is the method most people start with, and for good reason. You take a plastic paver mold, the kind that costs around $15 and makes one paver at a time, and you fill it with a basic concrete mix like Quikrete's 5000 PSI blend. The trick most tutorials skip is the water ratio. Too much water, and your paver comes out weak and chalky. Too little, and it won't fill the mold corners properly, leaving air pockets that turn into cracks later. The sweet spot is a mix that looks like thick oatmeal, not soup, and not dry crumbles. You want it wet enough to pour, but stiff enough that a spoon can stand up in it for a second before slowly leaning over. Tap the mold firmly on the ground about 10 times after pouring to release trapped air bubbles, because those bubbles are the #1 reason homemade pavers crack in freezing weather. Here's the surprising part almost nobody talks about. A 40-pound bag of concrete mix that costs about $5 will make roughly 4 to 6 standard-sized pavers depending on your mold. That means your cost per paver once you buy the mold one time drops to around 80 cents and keeps dropping the more you make. Compare that to a garden center charging $6 per paver, and the math speaks for itself. But molds aren't the only trick in the book. The next method uses something you probably already have sitting in your garage right now, and it produces a texture that molds simply cannot replicate. Plastic molds are great, but they limit you to whatever shapes the manufacturer decided to sell. Cardboard changes everything. Take any sturdy cardboard box, line the inside with a plastic garbage bag so the concrete doesn't stick, and you instantly have a custom mold in any size or shape you want, completely free. This method is perfect for people who want oversized statement pavers, the kind that sell online for $20 or $30 each because they cover more ground per piece. A shoebox-sized cardboard mold can produce a paver roughly 12 by 16 inches for the same 50-cent material cost as a small plastic mold version. You're just using more concrete per paver, but paying nothing extra for the mold itself. The one thing people get wrong here is reinforcement. A paver this large needs something inside it to keep it from snapping in half when you walk on it, especially after it cures. A layer of chicken wire or even a few pieces of bent rebar mesh laid into the wet concrete before it sets adds enormous strength for almost no cost. Skip this step and you'll likely see a hairline crack within the first year. What most people don't realize is that cardboard actually leaves a subtle texture on the surface as the concrete cures against the fibers, giving your paver a slightly rustic, hand-poured look that people pay landscaping companies extra to replicate. It's a happy accident that works in your favor every single time. Speaking of happy accidents, the next method turns something you'd normally curse at into the strongest paver on this entire list. Quick question for you before we move on. Have you ever priced out a full patio or walkway at a garden center and just closed the tab because the number felt insane? Type yes below if that's happened to you, because I want to know how common this is. And if you're finding this useful so far, subscribing genuinely helps, because I'm building out a full series on backyard projects that cost almost nothing, and you don't want to miss the ones still coming. The Urbanite method using broken concrete. Urbanite is a landscaping term for old broken up concrete, the kind you find in
driveways being torn out, sidewalks being replaced, or old patios getting demolished. Most people see this as garbage. Landscapers see it as free, premium material. Cities and contractors will often let you haul it away for nothing just to save themselves a disposal fee. The process is simple. You break larger slabs into paver-sized pieces using a small sledgehammer, then lay them directly into a leveled bed of sand or gravel, just like you would with store-bought pavers. Because the pieces are irregular, this creates what's known in the industry as a flagstone-style path, the exact look that costs thousands when installed professionally with actual flagstone. The surprising fact here is that Urbanite is often structurally identical to the pavers you'd buy new, because it's literally made from the same concrete, sometimes even higher grade concrete than modern store-bought pavers, depending on the era it came from. You are not downgrading your material quality by using it. You are recycling premium concrete for free. The next method takes things in a completely different direction and uses a material gardeners already keep around for an entirely different reason.
The Hypertufa method for a stone look. Hypertufa is a lightweight concrete alternative made by mixing Portland cement with peat moss and perlite instead of standard sand and gravel. Gardeners have used it for decades to make planters that look like carved stone, and the same mix works beautifully for stepping pavers, especially in shaded garden paths where you want something that blends naturally instead of looking manufactured. The mix ratio that works well is roughly equal parts Portland cement, peat moss, and perlite combined with just enough water to bind it together. Because peat moss and perlite are so lightweight, the finished pavers weigh significantly less than standard concrete, which makes them far easier to carry and position, especially if you're working alone without help lifting heavy slabs. What surprises most people is the aging process. Hypertufa actually looks better over time. Moss and lichen naturally grow on its porous surface within a season or two, giving it that ancient stone garden look you see in expensive botanical gardens without you doing anything at all. It's essentially a paver that improves itself for free while you do nothing but wait. Up next is a method that uses something almost every household throws away weekly, and it might just be the smartest one on this entire list. The stepping stone kit with free fillers. Craft stores and hardware stores sell stepping stone kits designed for decorative mosaic stones, usually priced around $10 for the mold and mix combined. The trick to stretching your money here is bulking out the concrete mix with free filler material instead of using pure cement for the entire paver. Small pebbles, broken pieces of old ceramic tile, or even clean beach glass can be mixed directly into the wet concrete or pressed into the surface before it sets. This does two things at once. It stretches your cement mix further, so you need less of it per paver, and it creates a decorative embedded pattern that would normally require a separate mosaic kit costing $20 or more on its own. The detail most people miss is timing. If you press decorative pieces in too early, they sink and disappear. Too late, and they won't bond properly and will pop out after the first hard rain. The correct window is right after the surface starts to lose its wet shine, but is still soft enough to press into with your finger, usually somewhere between 20 and 40 minutes after pouring, depending on humidity and temperature that day. We're halfway through the list now, and the next batch of methods gets even more creative with materials you'd never expect to see in a garden path. Before we keep going, I want to ask you something directly. Out of everything so far, which method sounds like something you'd actually try in your own yard this weekend? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely read every single one, and it helps me figure out what to cover deeper in future videos. And if a subscribe hasn't happened yet, this is a good moment, because the second half of this list gets into techniques that most gardening channels never cover at all. The leaf cast paver method. This one turns actual garden leaves into permanent decoration, pressed right into your pavers. Large leaves like rhubarb, hosta, or elephant ear work best because of their deep vein texture. You pour a bed of sand into a shallow mold, press a large fresh leaf face down into the sand to create an impression, remove the leaf, then pour concrete directly into that sand impression. Once the concrete cures and you flip it over, the underside shows a perfect, permanently cast imprint of every vein and edge of that original leaf, like a fossil. This technique has become genuinely popular on garden design blogs, where finished leaf pavers sell for $15 to $25 each depending on size, yet the material cost to make one yourself stays
stays under $1. The part that surprises people most is that the leaf itself is completely free and completely renewable. You can walk into your own backyard, grab a leaf from a hosta plant, and have it brand new decorative mold impression ready in under a minute, with zero cost and zero waste, since the leaf simply dries out and can be composted afterward. The next method solves one of the most annoying problems in DIY pavers, which is getting a perfectly smooth, professional finish without any special tools.
The melamine board and glass finish method. This is the one I promised you at the start, and it's genuinely the most shocking to people who assume smooth, polished pavers require expensive equipment. The secret is melamine board. The same cheap laminated particle board used for shelving that you can find in the scrap bin at most hardware stores for almost nothing, sometimes even free from cutoff scraps. Melamine has an ultra-smooth, slightly glossy surface that concrete does not stick to. When you pour your paver mix into a mold built from melamine board and let it cure against that surface, the finished paver comes out with a smooth, almost polished glass-like face on the side that touched the board. The exact same finish that expensive commercial pavers achieve using industrial steel molds costing thousands of dollars. What makes this genuinely shocking is the cost comparison. A commercial polished concrete paver with this exact finish sells for $10 to $15 each in specialty stores. Your melamine scrap mold, which you can reuse hundreds of times, produces the identical finish for a material cost of around 50 cents per paver. Once people realize this, they stop buying polished pavers entirely and start hunting scrap bins for melamine cutoffs instead. There's one more trick to this method most tutorials leave out completely, and it's what separates an amateur-looking paver from one that looks factory-made: the sand bed and vibration technique. Even with a perfect mix and a perfect mold, air bubbles trapped along the mold walls will ruin your finish, showing up as tiny pockmarks on the surface once you demold it. Commercial paver factories solve this with industrial vibration tables that shake the mold at high frequency the moment concrete is poured, forcing air bubbles up and out before the mix begins to set. You can replicate this at home with something as simple as an old electric sander or even a cheap handheld massage gun set on its lowest setting, held gently against the outside of the mold for about 30 seconds after pouring. The vibration travels through the mold walls and pushes trapped air upward, exactly like the industrial version, just at a fraction of the cost and scale. The surprising fact here is that this single step, which takes less than a minute, is often the biggest difference between a paver that looks homemade and one that looks store-bought. Most people skip it entirely because nobody tells them it exists, yet it costs absolutely nothing if you already own a basic power tool sitting in your garage. Once your pavers are demolded and smooth, the next challenge is getting them to actually last for years instead of cracking after one winter. And that comes down to a curing trick almost nobody follows correctly: the slow cure method for maximum strength. Most people rush this part, and it costs them. Concrete does not actually finish hardening in a day or two like the bag label makes it seem. It continues gaining strength for up to 28 days, and how you treat it during that window determines whether your paver lasts 5 years or 50. The mistake almost everyone makes is letting the paver dry out too fast in open air and sunlight. Concrete needs moisture to properly cure through a chemical process, not just air drying. Covering your fresh pavers with plastic sheeting and misting them with water once a day for the first week dramatically increases their final strength compared to just leaving them uncovered in the sun. The number people are always shocked by is this: a paver cured properly over 28 days can be up to 50% stronger than an identical paver rushed and used within just a few days. That's the difference between a paver that survives 10 winters of freezing and thawing versus one that starts flaking apart by the second season. This single free step, patience, is worth more than any additive you could buy. There's one last method on this list, and it ties every single technique we've covered into one final money-saving trick that most people never think to combine.
The real secret professional-looking budget patios share is that they rarely use just one technique. Combine Urbanite pieces from Method 3 with Hypertufa stepping stones from Method 4 and a few polished Melamine pavers from Method 7, and you get a patchwork patio with visual variety that actually looks intentionally designed rather than uniform and mass-produced. This approach also solves a practical problem. You're never stuck waiting on one giant batch of concrete to cure before you can keep working. You can pour a few pavers this weekend, add Urbanite scraps you found for free next weekend, and slowly build an entire patio
patio or path over a month or two without ever spending more than a few dollars in any single session. The part that surprises people most is that mixed material patios, the exact look created by combining these methods, are one of the most requested styles from professional landscape designers right now, specifically because it looks custom and expensive. You're not settling for a cheaper version of a nice patio, you're building the exact style people are paying thousands of dollars extra to have professionally designed. Here's the pattern running through everything we just covered. Every single one of these 10 methods proves the same thing. The cost of a beautiful garden path or patio was never really about the material. Concrete, sand, and cement are some of the cheapest raw materials on the planet. The real cost you've been paying at garden centers is convenience, packaging, and someone else doing the labor for you. Once you understand the process, mold it yourself, cure it properly, and finish it with the right technique, you're not just saving money, you're building something with your own hands that will outlast almost anything you could buy off a shelf. And honestly, that makes it worth more, not less. If you want to see exactly how to lay these Pavers down for a walkway that doesn't shift, sink, or grow weeds between the joints, that's the video coming next, and it covers the base prep step most people get completely wrong. Subscribing means you won't miss it when it goes live, and it genuinely helps this channel keep making projects like this instead of the generic stuff you already know. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Get out there, get your hands a little dirty, and I'll see you in the next one.